This cookie recipe is sponsored by Squarespace. I've been developing recipes professionally almost 4 years now, and I don't think I've come up with a better tip than starting your cookies under the broiler/grill. It results in uncommonly pretty cookies with some caramelized flavor in the flaky top. I've been trying to refine my old recipe lately, and here it is, with precise measurements this time. A stick, 113 grams unsalted butter, just melt it down in the microwave. You could brown the butter. Some people who aren't me really like the taste of that, but be aware that browning also boils off the 15% of butter that is water, so you'll either need to add a little water or reduce the flour a bit. 200 grams of sugar. For granulated sugar, that would be 1 cup, but I'm using powdered sugar, which makes for a slight improvement in appearance. You get a smoother surface on the cookie. It doesn't make a huge difference. Don't go out of your way to find powdered sugar for this. Try brown sugar for flavor, or drop in a little dab of molasses, because brown sugar is just sugar plus a little molasses. Give that a preliminary beating, mostly to lower the temperature of the butter, in case the butter is so hot that it's going to prematurely cook the egg. Beat the egg in. If you're using granulated sugar, you can get a similar effect to what I'm getting here by just beating for an extra couple of minutes at this stage. Let the sugar dissolve a bit in the water from the egg and the butter. Nice pudding-like texture that, from the powdered sugar, and from the fact that I didn't get my butter super hot. If the butter was hotter, the mixture would be runnier at this stage. That doesn't really matter either way. It's just a good cautionary note about judging the content of a dough by its consistency, something I probably do a little too much. I like a whole teaspoon of this kosher salt. The kind of salt only matters in as much as different salts will measure out differently by volume. 10 grams is what I like, which is going to be noticeably salty. You might like less. You know, I used to be an advocate for baking powder in these cookies, but after I tested it, I think I prefer simple baking soda, in chewy cookies at least. For cakey cookies, you want the baking powder, which has an acid and a base. Baking soda is just the base. Half a teaspoon of that, maybe 3 grams. It's a subtle thing, but baking soda just tastes a little better here. Acid does inhibit browning. Everything in me is saying just slosh in some vanilla, but I'm measuring it out for you. Let's say 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, which is how much? 8 grams. There you go. You might like less vanilla. Some people say I put in too much. Having tested it side by side, I really do think these come out better with bread flour. Bread flour makes chewier cookies, browner cookies, but all-purpose flour is okay. This 00 flour is super finely ground, which again gets you a nicer, smoother top. Flour grind doesn't matter that much to this, but it's nice. And in all of my experiments, I determined that the best quantity of flour relative to a stick of butter is 230 grams, which is about a cup and a half of bread flour. AP flour is lighter, so it measures out differently. Mix that up nice and smooth. Honestly, even going by weight has been a little hit and miss for me as far as getting the perfect cookie goes. Higher protein flour absorbs more water, etc., etc. Measuring by weight can lull you into a false sense of security. The key here is to get enough flour that the dough is that sticky. If it's not sticky at all, you're going to get taller, drier, kind of scone-like cookies. That's what would happen, by the way, if you boiled out all the water from the butter but did not lower the flour accordingly. If it's way more sticky than this, the cookies are going to spread super thin in the oven. I find that if it feels just a little too sticky to me, it's perfect. And you could put in chocolate chips or whatever, but today I'm putting in M&Ms just for funsies, and 100 grams is the right amount of any chocolate for me. That's proportionally less chocolate than what the classic Toll House recipe calls for, but Toll House is in the business of selling chocolate chips, so what do you expect? Since the dough is a little sticky, you can make it easier to shape by chilling it in the fridge for a bit and make it more solid, but based on my recent experiments, the fridge makes no difference in how the cookies actually bake. I usually bake cookies on parchment paper, but the paper does burn a little with this method, and that makes a nasty smell, so I'm going bare pan today. If you care that much about precision, 115 grams each is a good weight for half a dozen big cookies. I just roll them out into golf balls first. No nonstick spray on the pan, by the way. With these cookies, at least, the spray does almost nothing to inhibit sticking, and it gives a slight fried flavor to the base that I don't like. Now I go back and flatten each ball into a little puck. You can skip this, but they bake prettier and more evenly if they start as pucks. And if you really care about aesthetics, you can refine the circles a little bit before baking. I've had my oven heating already to 375 Fahrenheit, 190 Celsius, convection, but I will immediately turn that off and turn the broiler on high. What the Brits call a grill is is up here at the top. It heats up in a minute or two, and if you don't have one, just bake the cookies normally. It's going to be fine. Under my broiler, this stage takes 90 seconds tops. Once you have golden brown domes that will crack in attractive patterns as the cookies spread, get them out fast before they burn. If you have multiple pans of cookies, brown them one at a time. It'll go real fast. Now I'll turn the broiler off and the convection bake back on. Give the broiler a minute or two to cool down. The oven itself is already at the right temperature because we preheated. Yes, the word preheat has valid use cases, and I just gave you one, pedants. If you don't have a convection fan blowing in there, you're going to be fine. Just maybe rotate the pans halfway through to help them bake more evenly. Conventional ovens have hot spots that the fan helps to even out. And the fan accelerates baking a bit. These only needed like 8 more minutes. For the texture I like, I pull them when they look just a hair underbaked, and that is that. So the broil then bake procedure that I invented accidentally one day when I turned on the broiler instead of the oven, which I meant to turn on, I think this replicates the look of a bake done in a professional steam injection oven. The steam gels the outer starch layer and gets you that smooth effect. That's just my guess. Let these cool and solidify before you try to scrape them off the pan. If you just gotta have hot, soft, gooey cookies, well, bake them on parchment paper. Once cooled a bit, these scrape off just fine with my thin silicone spatula, and I've been eating cookies all day, so Lauren is gonna take this bite for me. If the texture seems a bit too firm for you, try them again in the morning. They will soften, unless you live in a desert with no humidity. There you go. In 4 years, I've really come up with no better recipe. And I've worked with no better sponsor than Squarespace. Legit, from a YouTuber's perspective, no sponsor is easier to work with than Squarespace. They review videos promptly, they respond to emails promptly, and they pay promptly. And I do think that speaks well of their company as a whole. They also just rolled out a ton of new tools to help you make money with a website you build with Squarespace. You can really easily advertise your products and services across all different social media now, right from your Squarespace site. You can buy and print U.S. Postal Service shipping labels for the products that you sell right inside Squarespace now. You can accept tips and do all kinds of other crowdfunding now right inside Squarespace. You can make social videos and logos and all kinds of art right inside Squarespace now, and even sell them as NFTs if you're into that, right inside Squarespace. It's just everything you need to build and run a website. Start building one for free anytime. But when you want to buy a custom domain name through Squarespace or pay Squarespace to make your site live, use my code Ragusia and save yourself 10%. Thanks for some good years, Squarespace. And while we're thanking people, let me thank the person who posted my original and much less well-made version of this cookie recipe to Reddit almost 4 years ago. You're as responsible for my new career as much as any other single person, and I thank you profusely.
I gotta say, that's a pretty good bite that I just took.
Very beautiful, very aesthetic bite. Waka 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 waka.
That cookie tastes amazing.
Good.